In a small village near the monastery, a girl named Liza lived with her elderly and ailing mother. Their home was simple and modest, yet the warmth of their love kept it calm and bright. Every morning at sunrise, Liza would fill her little basket with wildflowers and walk along the narrow dirt path beside the monastery wall to sell them. The flowers were their only source of income, but the young girl's heart was full of hope and dreams. One night, while sewing a floral scarf, her mother kept her eyes fixed on her daughter and spoke softly. "My child, do not give your heart to anyone unguarded. The world is not kind to your tender heart." Liza smiled and said that life eventually had its bright days. Her mother sighed and fell silent. A shadow of worry lingered in her heart. One day, by the pond, a young man of noble birth noticed her. His name was Erast. Handsome, well-groomed, from a wealthy family, yet kindness and simplicity shone in his gaze. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and a short silence passed between them. A silence in which something new began to sprout in both their hearts. Erast bought a small branch of flowers and left, yet this tiny purchase became the beginning of a great attachment. The next day, they met again by the water. They stood closer than before. Liza could feel her own heartbeat, and the warmth of Erast's hands brought both shyness and joy to her soul. Walking by the water and among the poplar trees gradually became a habit of their days. They would sit on a wooden bench by the lake. Sometimes Liza would place a flower in Erast's hand and smile, and he would support her with a look full of affection. They spent days lying on the grass, gazing at the blue sky and tranquil clouds, and without words, love flowed silently between them. One evening, the mother looked through the small window of their cottage and saw her daughter returning from the river with light steps and shining eyes. The faint smile on her daughter's face made her mother's heart tremble. She gently drew the curtain aside and looked into the darkness beyond. Her heart whispered that not every love is safe for everyone. During one of their meetings, Erast placed a violet in Liza's hair and held her hand. Overwhelmed with joy, Liza lowered her head. Sometimes Erast would gently kiss her hand, and Liza would close her eyes, as if time had stopped. Their love grew silently but deeply. At night, Liza would adjust her clothes in front of the small mirror by candlelight. In the reflection, she saw a girl transformed, a girl in love. Her mother could not hide her worried gaze and once softly said, "If one day the world turns its back on you, I will be here. But I wish your heart never had to suffer." Unaware of the future, Liza kissed her mother's hand and comforted her. In Erast's magnificent mansion, among velvet drapes and glittering chandeliers, whispers about Liza were sometimes heard in the gatherings. Young princes and noble ladies would speak her name with surprise. Under subtle, sharp laughter, Erast remained silent, a moment of solitude that only loving hearts understand. He knew that this simple love, in a world heavy with judgment and cold glances, would not easily endure. Seasons passed, and their love remained warm, until one cold and sudden day. Erast was pressured by his family and social class to move to the city and live a life expected of the nobility. Not only his family, but the gaze and words of society tied a rope around his freedom. Liza waited for his return with a basket full of flowers and a heart full of hope. At night, she would sit by the pond, count the stars, and believe in his return. But time passed, and no news came. One day, a letter arrived. Neither harsh nor indifferent, but heavy with the sorrow of a bitter duty. Erast wrote that their relationship could not continue. His family and society expected him to marry a woman of his own class, and he feared that continuing this love would expose Liza to ridicule and pain. With trembling hands, Liza read the letter. The candle flickered, and its light quivered like her heart. She sat in silence all night. When her mother came to her side and embraced her, Liza whispered only one sentence. "I gave everything I had to this love. Everything." Days passed, and gradually she faded. Silent walks in the rain, pale cheeks, and eyes that no longer sparkled. One night, she returned to the place where their love had begun, the lakeside. The moon rested quietly on the water, and the waves played memories across the pond. Liza held the violet that Erast had once placed in her hair and laid it on the water, as if offering the last memento of their love to the world. She stepped forward, tired, alone, and unprotected. Her hands touched the cold surface of the water, and for the last time she closed her eyes. The next morning, her mother sat by the cottage, holding her daughter's flower basket in her arms. Her tears fell silently. She knew her life would never be the same again. Erast returned, but it was too late. When he stood by the pond and heard the news, something inside him broke. He lived the following years with deep regret, a wound that never healed. That day, he realized that love does not always bring joy. Sometimes it marks the beginning of a lifetime of sorrow. Thus ended Liza's story, a girl with a basket of flowers, a pure heart, and boundless love. And perhaps even now, the wind by the monastery carries her gentle voice along with it,